Hey guys, it's Sagar, and in this video I'm going to compare the cameras on this OnePlus 10 Pro with the ones on the iPhone 13. With OnePlus increasing the prices of their flagship smartphones with each launch, there is not a huge price difference between both these phones anymore. And that has got many people confused that should they spend that much amount of money on a OnePlus flagship smartphone, or should they spend a little extra and get the iPhone 13 instead? Which makes this a very interesting comparison. If your purchase decision hangs on the fact that which one of these has better cameras, then you have clicked on the right video. In this video, I am going to show and compare over 200 image and video samples from both these phones combined. I think that should give you a fairly good idea that which one of these phones performs better at taking images and videos in various lighting conditions. To keep this video from getting too long, I will just leave the camera specs for both of them in this slide. You can pause the video and go through them if you want. Let us start by taking a look at the videos that both these phones can shoot. Main camera on the OnePlus 10 Pro gets the option of shooting 8K 24fps videos, which the iPhone 13 doesn't. These 8K videos look amazingly crisp as they have a ton of details in each frame. The phone gets pretty hot very fast while shooting these videos, and then it tends to drop a few frames here and there, making the videos look choppy. These videos consume a lot of storage space, and I, like most of the other people, don't have an 8K display to watch them on anyways. For these reasons, I'm stuck with shooting 4K videos. Now the OnePlus 10 Pro has another trick up its sleeve which the iPhone 13 doesn't. It can shoot 4K 120fps videos as well. These videos are played back at normal speed if you view them on your phone, but you can slow them down in your video editing software if you want. I love making these slow motion montages with this phone. iPhone 13 joins the video party with the 4K 60fps shooting mode. Both these phones get OIS for videos at all resolution and frame rate options. OnePlus 10 Pro captures these videos in Rec 2020 color profile, while we are accustomed to watching colors in Rec 709 color profile. What this means is, the colors in its videos look much more saturated to us, which depending on your preference you may or may not like. Personally, I prefer the colors in the iPhone 13's video. You can play these 60fps videos as they are, or you can put them on a 30fps timeline and slow them down to half their speed to get slow motion shots like you can see here. OnePlus applies a bit of sharpening to all of the frames in these videos, which doesn't always look natural. You will also see a few jitters in its videos with each step which I take, while the videos are much smoother from the iPhone 13's main camera. iPhone 13 can shoot 4K 60fps videos with the wide camera as well, while the wide lens on the OnePlus 10 Pro is limited at shooting 4K 30fps videos. I don't take videos with the wide lens all that often, but I understand that they might come in really handy, and I'm also certain that 4K videos from these lenses look better than the images that they can take. The 3.3x telephoto lens on the OnePlus 10 Pro gets an 8 megapixel sensor, so it is capped at shooting 1080p videos at 30fps. If you want better frame rate and resolution options, you can go with the OnePlus 10 Pro. But for better quality videos with better colors and stabilization, you should choose the iPhone 13. Before we move to the images, if you are new to this channel, please consider hitting the subscribe button and the bell icon next to it. It is free and takes less than 5 seconds of your time, but it goes a long way in helping this channel grow. Coming to the daytime shots. OnePlus 10 Pro gets a 48 megapixel main camera, but these are 12 megapixel binned images. We will check out and compare the high resolution shots a bit later in the video. Both these images are incredibly detailed, and we can see a lot of details even as I zoom in on them. There is however less noise in the iPhone 13's images, both in the brighter and darker parts. Well, that is because OnePlus brings up the shadows in its shots a bit too much, which takes away most of the contrast of the shot, while the iPhone 13 has a good amount of contrast in its images. That being said, for this particular shot, I like the one from the OnePlus 10 Pro as it made the whole image look more lively. In these shots, we see a difference in the focal length of both these cameras. OnePlus 10 Pro has a 23mm lens in front of its main camera, which is slightly wider than the 26mm one on the iPhone 13, and that lets it capture slightly wider field of view by standing at the same spot. You can see that the top of the building is clipped in the iPhone shot, but you can clearly see it in the OnePlus 10 Pro's image, both above the water and in the reflection. The other thing which you might have noticed is the difference in the white balance and the color temperature from both these phones. iPhone 13 is trying to show you true colors of the scene, while the OnePlus 10 Pro adds a lot of warmth to its images. It might look good for one or two shots, but it doesn't look natural for all of the images. There is a dry patch of land and a camel in this shot, so maybe it can get away with a warm look for this particular shot, but it tries to do the same for all of its shots, and in these conditions it doesn't look good or natural. I don't know why, but OnePlus tries to add magenta and yellow color to its images. Again, the colors of this scene were how you see them in the iPhone 13's image. If you have sky in your shot, OnePlus 10 Pro will always make it look magenta instead of blue. And for some reason, you also start seeing a lot less details in its images compared to the iPhone as I zoom in. Most of the time, you will see a bit more saturated colors in the OnePlus 10 Pro's images compared to the iPhone 13. I said a bit more saturated because it is not oversaturating the colors by any means. It is just that the iPhone's colors look slightly less saturated in comparison, but that is how the scene looked in real life. If these colors are not saturated enough for you, and you like an even high contrast and high saturated look, then you can turn on the AI scene detection mode on the OnePlus 10 Pro and choose the high contrast or vibrant picture profile on the iPhone 13, and those images will be more to your liking. You can switch to the Hasselblad Pro mode on the OnePlus 10 Pro and have a slightly different color processing in your shots. Personally, I prefer colors coming out of the default camera app, so I stuck with it for all of my shots. Everyone sees color in a slightly different way. Some like flat looking colors, while some might prefer bright saturated colors, and others might even like a high contrast look, and all of this is completely fine and normal. You should just pick the one whose colors look better to you. Coming to the HDR shots. As you can see, both the phones made this shot look really good, but OnePlus seems to have managed a brighter sky in the background slightly better. iPhone did manage to capture better colors in the flower and less noise in the shadows, while it is filled with noise in OnePlus's shot. In this shot, OnePlus clearly did much better with the dynamic range than the iPhone 13. It again added a yellow and magenta tone to this shot, but I really don't mind it in this particular shot since we don't have a lot of things in the shot which might look unnatural. What do you guys think? Again, OnePlus 10 Pro did better with the dynamic range. It brought back much more details from the shadows while preserving the brighter sky, whereas the smart HDR on the iPhone 13 doesn't seem to be making a whole lot of difference. We will see this trend for all of the HDR shots. Sometimes the OnePlus 10 Pro might even go overboard in bringing up the shadows and make the shot appear too flat. But I think most people will still prefer its shot since it brought back more information from the trees which appears too dark in the iPhone's shot. Now the OnePlus 10 Pro has a small issue. If you have the HDR mode set to auto, it doesn't fire up for all of the shots that it should, which might even ruin some of your shots. So to make sure that the HDR mode works, either have it turned on for all of your shots, or you can turn it on manually for the shots that you think require it. Despite of this small issue, I would say the HDR mode on the OnePlus 10 Pro largely delivered better results than the one on the iPhone 13. For the close-up shots, both the main cameras are very fast at setting the focus on your desired object. As you can see, the subject is in perfectly sharp focus from both the phones, and the background is blurred out very nicely. If you have a very bright light source behind your subject, then the OnePlus 10 Pro might have a few difficulties setting the focus, so be aware of that. This is not a major issue since you can quickly change the composition of your shot and it then quickly sets the focus. I would say other than the shift in color temperature, close-up shots from both the phones look really good. These are big sensors, so if you are too close to your subject, like in the shot from the OnePlus 10 Pro, you will see some fringing around your subject. To get rid of this, just move an inch or two away from your subject and the image will turn out much sharper. If you like taking close-up shots, you will have a good time clicking images with both these phones. Sadly, none of these phones get a macro mode and you can't get any more closer to your subject than this. iPhones have never had a macro lens before this, and even with the 13 series, Apple kept it reserved for the Pro lineup. But OnePlus gave us this lens in their previous phones, so it is really sad to see them take away this feature from their top-of-the-line smartphone. Coming to the portrait shots, this mode is getting better and better each year, and if the lighting conditions are right, it might be difficult to guess if these portrait shots have been clicked with a phone or a DSLR camera. Both the phones are fairly accurate at detecting the edges. Skin tones look very natural in the portraits on the iPhone 13, whereas OnePlus makes them appear yellowish or pale in some of these shots. I think the edge detection is slightly better from the OnePlus 10 Pro around the hair, as you can see in this shot. But for some of the scenes, it also confuses the foreground and the background, resulting in such messy looking portrait shots. iPhone 13 on the other hand did a lot better with its portrait shot. Overall colors and white balance of the entire scene looks much more natural in iPhone's portrait shots, while OnePlus is again making the shot look a lot warmer than how the scene really was. That being said, if you look at these images individually, ones from the OnePlus also don't look bad at all. It also lets you take zoomed in portrait shots, which the iPhone 13 doesn't. But these are 2x digitally zoomed in shots and not being captured by the 3.3x telephoto zoom lens, which make them look a lot softer. The main subject is not very sharp in these portrait shots, but if you don't plan on zooming in too much, you can get away with them. That being said, as the wide portrait shots look much more detailed, I prefer sticking to them on the OnePlus 10 Pro. I think the saturated and warmer look from the OnePlus 10 Pro is making its portrait shots of objects appear more lively. The edge detection is almost similar from both in these images, but the subjects are a bit sharper from the iPhone 13. That being said, although they are not showing the original colors, these portrait shots of objects are looking more lively and fun from the OnePlus 10 Pro. If I had to choose just one, I would pick the iPhone 13 for taking all of my portrait shots, because it captures more details in the subject, and more importantly, because it is showing natural skin tones and colors, which is important for me while taking portraits of people. We have seen this image before. This is how the main camera on both the phones captures the scene. And now, here is how much more of the scene the wide lens will let you capture by standing at the same exact spot. It lets you get such a wide field of view in your shot. This lens comes in handy in tighter spaces where you want to capture a wider scene but you don't have enough space to move back. Color-wise, both the phones continue to do the same. OnePlus captures warmer colors, whereas the iPhone tries to capture the scene as it was. Dynamic range is also same as it was from the main camera. OnePlus again captures better dynamic range with the wide lens. Usually iPhones are really good at handling the dynamic range, but for some reason the iPhone 13 is not doing a good job with it at all. At least not in these images. OnePlus 10 Pro gets a 3.3x telephoto lens which will let you get closer to a distant object. While these images look good, I wish this lens also had a higher megapixel sensor behind it, because the 8 megapixel sensor is not the best at capturing a lot of details in these shots. We have been comparing 12 megapixel shots from both the phones until now, and I have been saying that somehow iPhone's images look a bit sharper. Well, on the OnePlus 10 Pro, you can switch to the 48 megapixel mode on its main camera and these images capture a lot more information. If I zoom in on these shots, we see slightly more information in OnePlus 10 Pro's image. We have to zoom in quite a lot to see the difference, and then you will see the lines in the OnePlus 10 Pro's images to be slightly sharper and the details are a bit muddy on the iPhone's shot. But you will notice these things only when you zoom in 5 to 6 times on these images. If you look at them from this far, you will barely see any more details in the 48 megapixel shots from the OnePlus 10 Pro. You can zoom way in on the 48 megapixel shots before they start falling apart. But these images take 3 to 4 times more storage space than the 12 megapixel shots. If you shoot all of your images at this resolution, your phone's internal storage will be filled up very soon. So for this reason, I suggest you to stick to the default 12 megapixel mode for most of your shots on the OnePlus 10 Pro. Its ultra-wide-angle lens also gets a 50 megapixel sensor, and when we zoom in and compare these 50 megapixel shots with the 12 megapixel ultra-wide shots from the iPhone 13, we again see ones from the OnePlus 10 Pro being sharper. These ultra-wide high-resolution shots don't show the best dynamic range, and in some of the shots, it even doesn't seem to have captured that much more information than the 12 megapixel ultra-wide shots from the iPhone 13. It is up to you if you want to use this mode or not. But again, on the ultra-wide-angle lens as well, I will suggest you to stick to the default resolution on the OnePlus 10 Pro. That brings us to the images which are shot in indoors, artificial and lower lighting conditions. OnePlus 10 Pro has a slightly bigger sensor for the main camera, but it's the iPhone 13 which is capturing brighter images in these indoor artificially lit conditions. For some reason, some of the OnePlus's images also seem a bit softer overall, which you can see as I zoom in on them. Optical image stabilization on the main sensor and a wide aperture helps this phone capture a lot of light in lower lighting conditions as well. If there is plenty of light, OnePlus finally captures sharp shots, but we again definitely see a difference in the way both of them handle the white balance. iPhone is capturing accurate colors, but OnePlus is again adding a pinkish warm hue to its shots. But I still feel the images from the OnePlus 10 Pro are looking better here. I mean, the bricks in this shot, or the cane light shades, and again the bricks in the lower right corner are looking better to me in the 10 Pro's images. As the light gets even lower, both the phones still manage to capture a lot of information, but these images are now filled with noise unless you turn on the night mode. If you don't know this yet, then the iPhone 13 captures some really bad flare if the light source is directly in the frame. Just look at the light flares all around this shot. This has been an issue with iPhones for the last 2 years, and Apple still hasn't found a way to fix it. When there is no flare in the shot and when the night mode is turned on, both the phones take really good low light images. Just look at the amount of information in these shots. There is a bit more light in some of these shots from the OnePlus 10 Pro. We see more details and everything is much sharper in iPhone's night mode images. I don't know why this is, but consistently throughout this video, we have seen the iPhone 13's main camera capture sharper images. OnePlus has a high resolution sensor and it is also using pixel binning on top of that, which means its individual pixels should be bigger and capture more light and information. As good as the images from the 10 Pro have been, I think OnePlus needs to work a bit more on the image processing so they could deliver even better images out of this huge main sensor. The wide lens on the OnePlus 10 Pro captures slightly sharper images with a bit less noise in these challenging lighting conditions. These wide cameras don't have the widest aperture or OIS to help them in lower light, but OnePlus gets a bigger sensor which captures more light, and that's the reason we see a bit less noise in its low light wide shots. Colors however look natural and much better in iPhone's ultra wide angle shots. That being said, I'm not very comfortable using these ultra-wide angle lenses in lower light. You can if you want to, but I prefer not to. Coming to the front-facing cameras. OnePlus gets a 32 megapixel front-facing camera as opposed to a 12 megapixel one on the iPhone 13. That might sound like a big difference in terms of numbers, but when you actually look at the images, you won't find a huge difference. In fact, for some of these selfies, we even see more details in the ones from the iPhone 13. I've never been much of a selfie taker, but if you like to take a lot of selfies, then you should know that the iPhone makes your skin tones appear more natural. For the portrait selfies, I would say edge detection is slightly better from the OnePlus 10 Pro. Sometimes iPhone 13 will blur my hair, and if you have more than one person in your selfie behind you, it will most certainly blur one of those faces. The OnePlus 10 Pro doesn't have this issue too often. It might still miss the hair in one or two shots, but the iPhone misses it much more often. That being said, I would say for selfies, both of them are doing a fairly good job. But I've definitely seen phones priced much lower take better selfies than both of these phones. Here's a video from the front-facing camera of the iPhone 13 and the OnePlus 10 Pro. You can see how both of them are handling the overall colors of the scene, exposure, and stabilization when I'm walking around with them. You can also let me know in the comments which one do you think is capturing my voice better. With that, we have seen over 200 image and video samples from both these phones combined, and I would say it's tougher than ever to choose a better camera phone amongst them. Both of them have some strong and weak points. OnePlus has high resolution cameras, but in the default mode it is not capturing the most detailed images. Add to that the inaccurate colors and white balance in its shots, and anyone would be ready to write it off. But then it comes back strong with amazing dynamic range while capturing HDR shots. iPhone 13 takes amazingly crisp images for just having a 12 megapixel main camera. It even produces much better looking colors, but this time it falls way behind in the HDR department. Personally for me, the portrait shots look better from the iPhone 13 because it has extra details in the shot and the fact that it handles the color in a more natural way. For low light, it's a close call, but I would again pick the iPhone 13 because it captures slightly more details in the shots that we saw. Video resolution options are plenty on the main camera of the OnePlus 10 Pro, and if you are looking to capture 8K videos, it is your only option. But I think most people getting these phones will end up shooting 4K videos, and in the end, those look more smoother and natural from the iPhone 13. Think about what kind of images or videos you take and look at which of these is better at that and make your decision that way. So there you have it. Finally, a OnePlus flagship smartphone which can go head to head with the cameras on an iPhone. After looking at over 100 image and video samples from each of them, which one do you think performed better? And if you're looking to spend close to 70,000 rupees on a smartphone, which one would you pick? Let me know in the comments. That is it for this video guys. Please hit the like button if you enjoyed this video and subscribe to the channel for a lot more quality tech videos like this. You can also check out some of the other videos from this channel. This has been Sagar and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Take care.